Good morning, everybody. I'm very happy to be invited here. For me, it's for the first time to be in Bishkek, and I like your city very much. I'm co-founder, together with Benedina Borra, of the Spontaneous City International, and I would like to speak about the concept of the Spontaneous City International, give you some examples about the development strategy. Yes. So, as you heard, I'm from Amsterdam, and that is the capital of Netherlands, quite a different country from Kyrgyzstan. We have no mountains, no hills, it is flat. And as you see, the purple marked area, this is our country. This is a very small country, 300 kilometers maximum. The purple colored areas, half of the country is below zero. So we have quite a different challenge. I would like to concentrate onto the central question of Spontaneous City International, which is to bridge the gap between the citizens and the city in general. I will explain that more in detail. Yeah? It's about how the citizen can participate in different ways in the renewal of their own neighborhoods, and how can their energy and how can their skills be used to renew the city. Here we have the two co-founders of Spontaneous City International. Benedina Borra will talk as well today. Yeah. We are Amsterdam-based foundation. We are not yet a foundation, but this year we will be a foundation. But we think it's always important to work local, and because of the distance, we need always a local group to cooperate, otherwise it's impossible for us. Yeah? So we organized a concept, and we would like to develop and test also the method we developed by making concrete projects, going into the neighborhood, looking for the challenges, trying to understand the area, trying to understand what the people want. We want to contribute making a change. We organized a manifesto with the 4 leading principles we are believing in, and I will explain these principles, which are quite generic, a little bit more in detail, but of course these principles, which are generic, always should be translated in a local atmosphere and context. So the first principle is about the human scale. That starts with the understanding of the reality, to get a good grip on the reality. And instead of having one consortium which is organizing pieces of the city in a new way, we think it would be better to look for strategies where a lot of people and developers can participate in the process, because our experience is that the city is complex and the city will take advantage out of that. Next one. Second principle, it's about the process. So instead of the strategy, and instead of making a detailed master plan where in advance you're trying to define all kind of perspectives in detail for the next 20, 30 years, we think much more in an open process, much more flexible, where the ideas can be changed through the time. What it needs always is a clear direction. Without direction, it's impossible, but the flexibility to changing circumstances is quite important, according to us. Spontaneous city and the participation of a lot of individuals or collectives is impossible, according to us, without having clear guidelines about the collective values. What is this collective values? We will talk about that more in detail and explain it. In fact, if I try to say it in one sentence, it is what is important for us all on long term. So if you are rebuilding houses, you need streets, you have parks, you have water, you need to drink water. There's nature, there's landscape, there's cultural heritage. All this is not about individual prospects, this is about collective values, in fact. And a city without collective values, I think, will die. The fourth principle is about how to organize participation, or better said, cooperation. It's not about that the city is making plans and is going into the neighborhood and asking them, so what is your idea about the plans? It's more active way how the citizens, inhabitants as well as entrepreneurs can participate in a real way in the process. Co-production. Yeah. These are the four principles. 3 years ago we wrote a book about that with this manifesto and some illustrations as a kind of inspiration, and now we try to bring it in practice. We started 2 years ago with our activities here. I would like to tell about 3 examples from my city in Amsterdam. They are quite different of character, these projects, but they all are related to the principles in a way, or familiar to the principles of the Spontaneous City International. Yeah. I will start with this Oostenburg. Oostenburg is an area next to the inner city. It's part of the historical city, yeah, quite special, not really the medieval part. As you can see here, it's a historical area. This shows the situation in the 17th century. It was one of the 4 or 5 islands which have been made artificially in that time for the harbor, for trade, and for shipbuilding, wharves, and so on. This area, which is marked in with the white line, that marks the area I want to speak about. Yes. This has been, in the 17th century, a shipbuilding area, but as well as a headquarter of a first multinational operating company, which is called the United East Indian Company. From here, ships have been built here, and they went all over the world, for trade, for the eastern part. In that area, they divided the world in east and west, and this company, the headquarter, was responsible for the trade in the eastern part of the world. Yes. The next layer of history in that area was given by the industrial area around 1900, 1880, 1920, which is already over now. This is how it looks today. In the middle, you can see a new building, which is a trade building, which was made 10 years ago, more or less, where the headquarters of the most important national operating newspapers are located now. That was a new beginning for the area. It is, this area is bought by a housing corporation, the whole area, 11 hectares, and they are responsible for the redevelopment of the area. They ask us to help them making a strategy for an organic transformation. What does it mean, organic transformation? This means that they, as an owner, would like to participate, let participate a lot of people and entrepreneurs in the renewal of that area. Yeah? This is how it looks today. They are artists, they are young entrepreneurs. They, you could say at the moment, it's in between the old status and the new, the future status of the area. And there are events art events or commercial events, presentations, yes. Here we have a seminar we organized once in one of the listed buildings, so they are industrial listed buildings, which should be kept for the future, yeah. So we fixed quite clearly the building which has to be preserved for the future, and that always also already gives a framework of which should be kept as blocks and is a starting point for the public area. So we defined, in fact, the main structure for the future of that area, which also is the beginning of defining public value. Yeah? But the main idea is to go from one owner. The one owner is now the housing corporation to, let me say, 100 owners and participants in the future. So the idea is that a lot of people, inhabitants, as well as entrepreneurs, can participate in the process, and they all have their wishes for our houses or for shops or enterprise to participate. Yeah? And we organized a transformation strategy for that. It's important to link it to the surrounding for the traffic, pedestrian, bicycle, car accessibility, so there's always a reality around. Yeah? We try to organize very clearly the spatial framework of the public area. Yeah? This is the contramal, the fields which can be renewed or rebuilt. Yeah? Some of the areas are already built. They are listed buildings. Next. We organized a diversity of lots and parcels so that diverse entrepreneurs can step in the process for the renewal. And this indicates the scale for the new enterprise, you could say, in the area. So there's a clear framework, and within the framework of streets and places, there are the blocks. Within the blocks, the lots are clearly defined as the entity for new investments. Yeah? There are some special points. The corners always are special, you could say. Yeah? They are clearly organized to the street lines. I think what is always important for these kind of processes are to give clear rules. If a lot of people participate in the process, you need clear guidelines. Give direction to the process, but also so that everybody knows what should be done and what is not done. Yeah? Also about the building height in relation to the listed building and the surrounding. Yeah? We tried out the flexibility of the lots and made some typology studies about that. Yeah? Again, about building heights. Yeah. And so it could look maybe in future. Of course, it will look a little bit different. This is just to give an idea. And the last one of this first example. And here we could start, in fact, next to the existing neighborhood, where the process could easily be continued next to the existing neighborhood. That was about the first example. The next one is on the overside of the water. So we have, there's the former harbor area, and the Amsterdam North is on the overside of the city center. This area is called the Noorderveld, yeah, which is now a forest area, this green area, not so good used, in fact. It is used, but not in such a good way. It could be used in a better way, surrounded by neighborhoods, by industrial areas, and very near to the water with a harbor and so forth. Yeah? We thought it's important, you remember I told about the first principle, to understand the reality and accept the reality as a starting point for the future. So it means we, instead of looking from distance to the area, from the city center, let me say from the city hall, the town planning department and so forth, next one, go into the area, try to understand what is the character of the area, what is the history and so forth, and go from this point of view to the future. Here you see a model we made, which shows the surrounding. There's an old dike. This bicycle chain demonstrates an old dike, which is from the 17th century, dike of the water. That was a landfill area, industrial area surrounding, and I will explain a little bit later on what this is next. These are the most important principles to reorganize the area by a clear accessibility from outside to the area, which are the anchor points, the most important entrances to the area, how to parcel and organize the internal fields of the area so that the people can take and participate in the process, and also the need of a proper, adequate organization for the whole thing. Yeah? So again, the idea is that a lot of people, local people in this case, from the Amsterdam North communities, can participate in the process for new ideas about a community garden. So that could be agriculture in the city, that could be a manege, that could be barbecue places, events, all kind of things. And the people have different ideas and wishes, and for all that is the space, but also this needs clear rules. Yes? Here's a little bit more detailed picture, illustration of how it could look. This is one of the two major axes from the dike to the water, and left to the main axis you see already some fields which are used, or could be used for agricultural purposes. Yeah? Here more in detail, a marina together with one of the incubators, which in this case is a beer garden. People like that very much, a beer garden. Then said also, we would like to have a place like that and a program like that. And there is a central spot on the cross point of the two axes, which is an open area for everybody, which is accessible by these two axes for events, pop concerts, and all kind of things, and a wheel which gives a fantastic panorama from 100-meter height. And the idea on the ground is that people can organize themselves, have their own ideas, they do their own things for school gardens, community gardens, all these activities. Yeah? So I show the process in another way. This is the existing situation. Now we can go a little bit quicker through the presentation. Yeah. The axis, the next, and fields are added to it. Yeah. And the incubators, the anchor points, school, entrepreneur houses linked to the surrounding programs. Yes. More fields are added here. And now you see also the accessibility by water, so that not only by public transport, the metro, and by bicycle, but also by water, you can come to the area, and also the walkways along the water, yeah? The relationship to already existing commons, yeah? And to the industrial areas, yeah? A bridge to the surroundings, so it's integrated in the fabric of the city, of the surroundings, showing the impact it will have even for the workers who are daily working in the industrial area. So it's not just for inhabitants, but also the people who are working in the surrounding can daily take profit out of that investment, which is made in fact by a kind of combined organization of the city and the people themselves. Yeah. So the idea is that this kind of investments, collective value, is producing a collective value where the neighborhoods can take profit, you could say. Yeah. And on a bigger scale of the city, it's the left corner, it add a new attraction to the city, you could say, to the existing parks which are already there. This was the second example, and the third is about a smaller scale, which is located in the very center of the city here. The medieval center from the 16th century, it's called Zeedijk. It has been a nice area, it is now a very nice area, but in between it was a no-go area. And this was a major challenge in the 70s. It looked like, you can see on the left picture, and nowadays to the right picture. What happened to bring it from one state into the other? Yeah? It is part of the inner city, as I said, and in former times it was a place for sailors. It was next to the harbor. Sailors came here for hostels, for prostitution, restaurants, cafes, bars, all that kind of entertainment here. And later on, in the 30s, last century, also immigrants from China came here. There's a Chinese community, a nice combination of atmospheres here. Up to the 50s of the last century, it was a very vibrant area here. But in the 70s and 80s, suddenly the area had a decline because of the idea of the suburbanization, which goes parallel to the upcoming cars. What means that the city invested in car infrastructure in suburbia and forgot the inner city, investment in the inner city. Also, the port moved from that area to outside, and so the area was taken over by people slave to heroin and prostitution of heroin. Yeah, it was a no-go area, as you can see here. A lot of problems. You couldn't go to the area without being robbed. That was for sure. Yeah. So daily difficulties. Can you hear me? Yeah. Yes. And you can imagine that it is really a difficulty for the owners of the shopkeepers, because nobody wanted to take the risk for investment of their own building, because if somebody would take the risk to do it, he was not sure if it would be burned the next day. So nothing happened. It was really a no-go area. Yeah? It looked like that. You can imagine it was a disaster and something had to happen. Yeah? Next. Daily demonstrations, problems. Yeah? So it was clear that something should happen, and it was a combined strategy of the city and the entrepreneurs to organize a process of renewal by real estate on the one hand side, and maintaining the order, you could say, on the other hand. That was a combined strategy. But the real estate approach was a very special approach by public-private enterprise located in the area, in the street. You can imagine how tough it was to go into the street. These people knew everybody, all the owners and all the users of the area, and that was necessary to make a change. Yeah? They also had a position, they had some funding, and could buy some grounds and corner properties, so that could demonstrate and make a beginning, in fact, of the renewal. And together with the owners and with the users, in a daily dialogue, they changed the area into a very nice area today. Yeah? Next one. And if tourists are now coming to Amsterdam, this will be one of the hotspots to go. So how to make a change from a no-go area to a area by street management, as we call it. Yeah. So 90 buildings have been renewed. There are shops. There are a lot of housing added in that area, also for social control. The mixer function has been very important. Yeah. So back to how we work. we realize that there are always a lot of stakeholders involved in any sort of renewal. Yeah? And we as Spontaneous City International mostly are starting with a process where the local inhabitants or entrepreneurs, together with the municipality, town planning department, traffic and so forth, and together with the local university, are together in a workshop at location. Not on the city hall, not the town planning department, but on the location, yeah? So once we have organized together the ambitions for the future and the commitments, it will come in another state to formulate concrete projects here. And we need at that moment more stakeholders also which can help to manage the process. Yeah? And this you can group. And I'm coming to the end of my presentation, and just to the last slide, I think. So we started 2 years ago with a workshop in Göteborg in Sweden. Also then we had a workshop and started activities in Porto Alegre in Brazil, and the renewal of favelas. Last year I came here to Bishkek for a workshop. Last week we had a new workshop in Brazil for a mixed-use area. And let's see what happened further on. Thank you very much.